going to read a verse from Canto 2, Chapter 3, and text number 10. Well, this is a nice verse. 2, 3, 10. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Nice verse, Canto 1, Chapter 2. Before reciting this very means of conquest, one should first offer respects to 1, 2, something like verse 4. Akama sarva kama
Kama sarva
moksha kama bhutani
Moksha Kama Bharati
veda bhakti yogena
Vena Bhakti Yogena
jeta purusham param
Jayata Purusham Param
Kama sarva kama
Kama Sarva Kama
moksha kama bhutani
Moksha Kama Bharati
veda bhakti yogena
Vena Bhakti Yogena
jeta purusham param
Jayata Purusham Param
broader intelligence, whether he be full of material desire, without any material desire, or desiring liberation, one must by all means worship the supreme whole personality of Godhead. The supreme personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna, is described in the Bhagavad Gita as Purushottam, or the supreme personality. It is he only who can afford liberation to the impersonalist by absorbing such aspirants in the Brahmajyoti of the rays of the Lord. Brahmajyoti is not separate from the Lord, as the glowing sun ray is not independent of the sun is. Therefore, one who desires to merge into the supreme impersonal Brahmajyoti must also worship the Lord by Bhakti Yoga, as recommended here. Bhakti Yoga is especially stressed here as the means of perfection. In the previous chapters, it has been stated that Bhakti Yoga is the ultimate goal of both Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga. And in the same way, in this chapter, it is emphatically declared that Bhakti Yoga is the ultimate goal of the different varieties of worship of different demigods. Bhakti Yoga, thus being the supreme means of self-realization, is recommended here. Everyone must, therefore, seriously take up the methods of Bhakti Yoga, even though one aspires to material enjoyment or liberation from material bondage. Akama is one who has no material desire. Living being naturally being part and parcel of the supreme whole, Purusham Purnam, as his natural function. to serve the Supreme Being, just as parts and parcels of the body or limbs of the body are naturally meant to serve the body. Desire for less means, therefore, not to be inert like a stone, but to be conscious of one's actual position and thus desire satisfaction only from the Supreme Lord. Srila Jiva Goswami has explained this desirelessness as Vajaniya Paramapurusha Sukha Matra Svasukatvam in his Sandarbha. This means that one should feel happy only by experiencing the happiness of the Supreme Lord. This intuition of the living being is sometimes manifested even during the conditioned stage of the living being. And such intuition is expressed in the manner of altruism, benevolence, social, communism, etc., by the undeveloped minds of best persons. In the mundane field, such an outlook of doing good to others in the form of society, community, county, country, or humanity, is a partial manifestation of the same original feeling, in which a pure living entity feels happiness and happiness of the Supreme Lord. Such superb feelings were exhibited by the damsels of Rajagopati for the happiness of the Lord. The gopis loved the Lord without any return. And this is the perfection, this is the perfect exhibition of a kama spirit. Kama spirit, or the desire for one's own satisfaction, only exhibited in the material world, whereas the spirit of kama is only exhibited in the spiritual world. Thoughts of becoming one with the Lord or being merged in brahmacharya can also be an exhibition of the kama spirit, if they are desires for one's own satisfaction to be free from material miseries. A pure devotee does not want liberation so that he may be free from the miseries of life. Even without so-called liberation, a pure devotee is aspirant for the satisfaction of the Lord. Influenced by the kama spirit, Arjuna declined to fight in the Kurukshetra battlefield because he wanted to save his relative for his own satisfaction. Being a pure devotee, he agreed to fight on the instruction of the Lord because he came to his senses and realized that satisfaction of the Lord at the cost of his own satisfaction was his primary duty. Thus, he became a kama. That is the perfect stage of the perfect living being. Uttara T means one who has a broader outlook. People with desires for material enjoyment worship small demigods, and such intelligence is condemned in the Bhagavad Gita 7:20. Put together the intelligence of one who has lost the senses. One cannot obtain any result from demigods without getting sanction from the Supreme Court. Therefore, a person with a broader outlook can see that the ultimate authority is the Lord, even for material benefits. Under circumstances, one with a broader outlook, even with the desire for material enjoyment or liberation, one should take to the worship of the Lord directly. Everyone, whether and implies that bhakti yoga may be perfectly administered without any mixture of karma and jnana, as the unmixed sun ray is very forceful and is therefore called tivra. Similarly, unmixed bhakti yoga, appearing in hearing, chanting, etc., may be performed by one and all, regardless of inner motive. Interesting conclusion of the whole purport. A little bit of summary of the context. This is a continuation of the discussion between Shukadeva Goswami and Maharaj Parikshit being the one asking, Shukadeva being the one answering his questions. And the question of how to achieve spiritual perfection is a forceful question, in especially the context of that he's about to die in 7 days. So this is the beginning part of the 7-day discussion and how to achieve perfection. You know, what is the duty of a man who's about to die? It's one of the initial questions. But you know, same thing, the duty of one who's about to die, the duty of one who's not necessarily about to die, but what's one's duty in life? Strive for perfection. And what's that? What's that perfection? So these first 3 chapters, 1, 2, and 3, is the sequence. The first step in God realization is chapter 1. And chapter 1 describes seeing things within creation as part of the feature of the Supreme Person, the universal form description. And the universal form descriptions are variegated, as creation is variegated. For example, universal form showed to Arjuna by Krishna, described in Bhagavad Gita. That description is very different. And description in chapter 1 is very different. But it's pursuant to the principle. The hills are as stacks of bones, and the sky is as hair, and the rivers are as veins. You're seeing things of the manifest creation in terms of the form of the Lord. Starting the first step. Second is leaving that behind, or putting it in the whole position, moving on to seeing the Lord in the heart. That's chapter 2. So that the process of Dhyan Yoga is described. And moving on from the Paramatma feature, the Lord in the heart feature, is the personal feature, the Bhagavan feature. And that's this chapter. So the perfection is the Bhagavan feature, the stages towards that perfection. And beginning part, the previous verses is describing basically it's karma kanda. They're devatas, they're personalities who are overseeing the affairs of material creation. And a living entity that wants this, worship this devata. One who wants that, worship that devata. And there's a long list of desires of living entities. Now it's not the totality of desires, because there's some unlimited numbers of living entities and corresponding desires. But there's principles and there's devatas that give those things. And it works, or it's a Vedic procedure and being recommended by Shukadeva Swami for those who want. And then comes this verse. It's pointing to, regardless of the wanting, the one should worship the personality of Godhead. It's the worship or upasana is a mature stage, a more mature stage than the Gyan process and the meditation process, because chapter 1 is knowledge of what's what. It's seeing what's what in terms of the universal form of the Lord. And that's certainly, it's a type of meditation, it's a type of indirect personal meditation, but it leads to more direct personal meditation. And then the meditation described in chapter 2 is more specific. It's the expansion, the partial expansion of the personality of Godhead within everything that's created. And meditation upon that, or seeing that, is the recommendation. And it can be, chapter 2 can be one to karma realization. It's a real realization. And it's described how it's to be done. And then the Bhagavan realization is also a real realization. And then the medium is bhakti. And then this verse is saying, rather than Gyan and karma, as previously discussed, there's also the possibility of engaging those propensities, material propensities, wanting this or wanting that, proposing wanting this and wanting that upon the personality of Godhead, the source of everything. And that's mixed bhakti, and then following mixed bhakti comes Shuddha bhakti in the descriptions of this chapter. So this is the possibility of someone who has those desires instead of worshiping, as it says in the beginning of this chapter, worshiping this devata, that devata, and getting their desires fulfilled, worshiping the Supreme, because the devatas don't have the capacity to deliver something unless the Supreme Lord sanctions or empowers them to give, because he's the source of everything. So that everything comes from him, and the power to give that everything comes from him. So the devatas are subordinate. And one can worship the subordinate, or one can worship the Supreme, even in that mixed position, that is, desiring knowledge or desiring karma, or kama, one's own sense satisfaction. And certainly that's the nature of devotional service in the beginning stage. It's not to be expected. It's not shameful. It's to be expected. It is to say, until one has attained purity or purification, then there's going to be the desire for this or that or the other thing as part of the conditioning or contamination of being in the material world. And the verse is saying that's okay. There's not a disqualification if you have a material desire. That means no one can be qualified. So having a material desire, okay. And up to liberation is a selfish, self-centered kind of desire. This place is crazy, I want out of here. And that's, my interest, not serving the Lord's interest is my interest. That's at the center of this. Aspiration for moksha. So, a kama, that's a no material desire. Desire, yes, but no material desire. Sarva kama, all material desire. Moksha kama, a third type of selfish desire. Tivra bhakti. So tivra is, the meaning is explained. It means strong. Strong. Tivra bhakti. So it can be strong material. That's tivra kama. But connect that tivra kama to tivra bhakti. And that is, in the ultimate sense, my desire for this, that, or the other thing is dependent upon the disposition of the Supreme Lord. So I turn to the Supreme Lord, I want this, that, or the other thing, rather than approaching the devatas for this or that or the other thing. Let me approach, though he who gives the ability to the devatas to fulfill those desires, go directly to the source. And by so doing, there's acknowledgement of there's a source. And it's important because supposing one doesn't recognize there's a source empowering the devatas to give whatever it is that or the other thing, then it's incomplete and it's not fulfilling. And it doesn't end in diminishing of that specific desire. It inflames and aggravates that specific desire. Meaning, if one gets this, I get X, then that's very nice. Now I want 3X. Whatever that desire is. On the material plane. Sarvakam. And when that is unsatisfying, that type, that brand of selfishness is not satisfying, then one wants to become free from all desires. And the free from all desires is imaginary, because there's no such thing. There's no such thing because living as the part and parcel of the Supreme has qualities like the Supreme, which includes desire. So if the solution then is bhakti, that is, align that desire with the Supreme. And by that bhakti principle, then one day come to the position of no longer having that material desire. The classic, or one of the classics, is Dhruva. He had big material want. And behind the material want was get back to the stepmother. That's another feature of material consciousness. So his stepmother was an obstacle for what by law, by Vedic law, he was entitled to. He's the eldest son, he's entitled to inherit the property of his father, the kingdom. And she was obstructing. No. In insulting manner. My son, not you, because you're not born from me. Because there was a second wife, the second queen. Anyway, so he did what he did to get not only his father's kingdom, but a kingdom better than his father, and better than his father's father, and better than his father's father's father, the spiritual world, little boy. And he wants to get back at the stepmother. Oh yeah, I'll show you. So he went to his mother. How can I get the kingdom? Etc. So she directed him to Vishnu, who can fulfill anything, which is the same message as this verse. So he went to the forest to find Vishnu. As she didn't know, she just said there's some sages that go to the forest. And they somehow went to the forest. Somehow he couldn't find Vishnu. But very determined, and Narada understood it. You know the story. So Narada explained to him, go back, stop, get back, spirit, not wholesome. I want a kingdom. So then he gave him a process of purification and a mantra. So this is a mantra not in Kali Yuga, it's a mantra in Satya Yuga. Mantras in Satya Yuga were also effective, along with the other rest of the process that he engaged in. So Dhyayate, the process of meditation, was taken up by yoga, and austerities and purification through austerities to control the senses, and his mantra. And in course of time, Lord Vishnu came and offered him whatever he wanted. And at that stage, he no longer wanted. The Sarvakama became Akama. But the Supreme Lord, knowing his former desire, gave him Dhruva, which is the pole star, which is a spiritual, it's beyond his father's kingdom, his spirit's kingdom. So the process of bhakti work for Dhruva, of course, pretty severe austerities. It's not that bhakti requires that. In Satya Yuga, it was appropriate. In our yoga, it's not so appropriate. The extreme degree of austerity is rather the basic principle of refraining from sinful activity in a manner that's described by the scripture and by our acharyas. So for us, for example, the four regular principles, it's a necessity to achieve perfection, because that's the topic, how to achieve perfection. Lord in the heart, then pure devotional service. So one more time. The bhakti principle is effective. I'll just read the last sentence again. The bhakti principle is effective regardless of one's present condition of having contamination. It's not a prerequisite that you become free from contamination to practice. You can practice bhakti in any condition, say it 3 times. And the nature of bhakti is it's purifying, so such tendencies gradually are cleansed or reduced or eliminated, leaving the pure original state of the living being. That's what yoga is intended to do. Explicitly, as the direct means of bhakti yoga. Of all the yoga systems, it's the best, according to Bhagavad Gita. The Uttama form of yoga, the best. And that's what's being said here also. Then in that best condition, one can engage in devotional services. Now unmixed. What unmixed means without having a motive for oneself, without the self-centered of these 3 categories. Material desire, satisfying with senses, merging with the Supreme, where I stop all material activity and I want to become one with the Supreme, just like we discussed yesterday, evening class, Yathaham, according to desire. So supposing I have that desire to become one with the Supreme, so that can be that there's a sukha or happiness that can be fulfilled when one becomes qualified. That Brahmananda, that experiences the sukha of Brahman, Brahma Sukha. So that's the second. Unlimited material desires, becoming free from material desire, and desiring sense control. And then through sense control, developing powers. So that's an aspiration of the yogis, sense control, and develop mystic cities. So those are three categories of desires, and all three in the material side. So the verse is saying, maybe this, that, or the other, on one of these three, that's okay. By practicing bhakti, one can become free from self-centeredness and become then Bhagavan-centered. Nice phrase, Jiva Goswami's phrase. Bhajaniya, desirelessness. Bhajaniya, Parama Purusha, Sukha, Matra, Sva Sukhatvam. So one's own Sva Sukhatvam, one's own happiness is the happiness of Parama Purusha. And the bhakti process, Bhajaniya, Parama Purusha, Sukha, Matra, Sva Sukhatvam. One's own happiness can be achieved by aspiring for the happiness of the Supreme Parama Purusha. Sukha, the happiness of Parama Purusha Sukha, Matra, Swasukhatvam. And there's so many examples of explaining like that, as indicated. For example, here's one for example. The residents of Vrindavan, their happiness is Krishna's happiness. And when Krishna sees that they have become happy, he becomes more happy. He who is unlimitedly happy becomes happy, happier. We discussed this yesterday. If he's unlimited, then how can he become happier? How can be anything greater than the unlimited? Atma Rama. So his happiness increases by seeing their happiness. That's the nature of love. And that's the greatest happiness, spiritual love. And then when the residents of Vrindavan see Krishna's happier, then they become happier. And so their beauty and their happiness makes Krishna happy. And so the competition between who's going to be increased happier, that's spiritual realm. Unending. Therefore, the Kaliya Lila is the complete reversal. Oh no! Krishna's in the coil of Kaliya serpent. Oh, and their happiness increases. The ecstasy of love, which is their happiness, increases. And Krishna lets them stay like that for one more time. Oh no. A long time. And increase, and then he slips away from Kaliya. Nationalism. The loving pastimes with Bhagavan. But the worldly people don't understand, and that's okay. They're prevented from understanding that which they can't understand. They'll see in material way. They'll see whatever they're going to see. This is a myth, it's fiction,
It's, you know, silly people doing silly things because they're silly. They're not us. They're beyond material desire, beyond silliness. So they're, by their own disposition, they're prevented from understanding Krishna and the happiness of understanding Krishna. Or understanding Bhagavan. So then they have these other three options: material, spiritual, or mystic yoga happiness, which is all self-centered. It's unfortunate, but you know, those are standard positions. And even if one is so fine, even if one is coming from the aspiration for one of those three, worship Krishna. Vajaniya Parapurusha Sukha Matra Swasukha. That's the stage of desire, lastness, where Krishna's desire is everything. That's how desirelessness to be achieved, and not otherwise. Bhagavatam's nice. Like the Bhagavatam. You know, like this in general, in Bhagavatam. Any discussion? Oh, you've got a microphone. Yeah, you want to use it? No. Okay. You do want to use it? No?
I can talk about it.
Huh?
So I'm looking at the part about the intuition of the living being is sometimes manifested even during the conditioned stage. And so this intuition is like super soul, right?
Yeah.
And it
Yes.
brings us to so Krishna is directing us to super soul to get into a better place to help others or,
Right.
you know, stand up for social justice,
Yes.
all these kinds of things.
Yes.
And so, even though we're attached materially to maybe some of these outcomes, or feeling good about ourselves that we're helping others, this is bringing us along, exactly.
Yes.
To descending mercy.
Yes. Mode of goodness is directionally towards Shuddha Sattva. But it's limited and the center is missed and it doesn't bring real happiness, ultimate happiness to oneself or others, but it's directional, beneficial. So it's interesting the way the Prabhupada, because in some other places it's like trauma AV cable, waste of time. And here it's honoring, it's directionally beneficial, but it's arising from the spiritual, but mixed. And therefore, you know, the other things he doesn't say is not satisfying to the person who's being served, nor is it satisfying to the person who's serving, and it's impermanent and imperfect. He doesn't do all that condemning. He's just saying it's directionally good. Keep going. The difficulty is most people don't keep going. They, at best, they stop there and they feel pride in doing this and that and the other. People are happy with them and they're happy with themselves and they stay stuck. in ritual, stuck in the ritual field, not going beyond ritual. So the intuition word is, incomplete or arising from the mixture rather than. That is to say, the purifying power of bhakti is missed for those that have this intuition through the isms that are appreciated in the world because they're doing this and that. And they're, it's nice. In a limited way, it's nice. We don't condemn the Bhagavatam doesn't condemn the limited nice, but it's limited and stays in the original field and continues to bind one, whatever the motivation that one wants. The akama, sarvakama, mokshakama. Categories, binding, still selfish. Then what is real desirelessness? Anything else? Okay. Huh? You good, okay. She was on
Jai.
Yeah.